Well, good evening. I think we're going to start. Maybe some people will be joining us later. Welcome to our side event on pathways towards climate justice and energy security, tailored 100% renewable energy roadmaps. We will unpack this for you during the next 1.5 hours. My name is Viviane Radatz. I'm the director of the climate and energy team of WWF Germany. We are part of the project that we are presenting to you today, together with Bread for the World and World Future Council, where I have my colleague Anna here. I'm very happy that all of you made it here to the last leg of the day in Bonn. Also, I want to welcome everybody that is joining us online, because we have some people at the screens in their homes or offices, wherever in the world. So what is the situation of our project? We have a backdrop of the increasingly severe climate crisis on the one hand, and also the world is facing an economic recession due to the impacts of the COVID pandemic, and also geopolitical tensions in many places, most notably the Ukraine war as well. And we have increased food and energy prices. So against this backdrop, we have energy taking a center stage in international politics. And concerns about energy security are more at the forefront than ever, and they have become really strong. And also, every country in the world is now more than ever looking for solutions also for the fossil dependencies that we have, and they have been really painfully brought to our attention. So our event here, the Pathways Towards Climate Justice and Energy Security, seeks to unveil and unpack how broad participation in the development of long-term renewable strategies can unleash the many benefits of the transformation to renewables, can reduce emissions, can enhance energy security, while strengthening livelihoods and equity. And how do we do that today? First, we're going to have a closer look at our 100 Remap project, which is a multi-actor partnership project. Anna from World Future Council will introduce you to that. And then that look into the project itself will be complemented by views on how it is implemented in Nepal and in Uganda. And for Nepal, we have Raju Chhetri, the director of the Prakriti Resource Center Nepal, and our colleague Yona Turinayo from WWF Uganda, who is not with us today, but he will be very big on the screen later on, because he recorded a video. So, and after we have looked into the projects and into the country pathways, we will then have 3 distinguished panelists that will join us here on this panel later on to discuss the role of energy in national politics and explore which framework conditions we will need, or they will need and will have to be met in order to strengthen the role of renewables in climate and development targets. So, without further ado, I would give the scene to you, Anna, to introduce our project, and that is me. So, and that is Anna.
Exactly. Yes. So. This is a very nice catchphrase which pretty much sums up the 100 Remap project, which is the acronym, because we all know this world loves acronyms, 100% renewable energy multi-actor partnerships. And it's a vision for the future that leaves no one behind and is 100% accessible via deploying 100% renewable energies, basically. And as my colleague already said, we are a consortium of different countries and organizations in different countries. We have in Uganda, we actually have WWF Uganda, so the local office, and ECHO. And in Nepal, we have WWF Nepal and the Prakriti Resource Center as well. We are actually doing that in 3 countries, but I'll come to that later on. The project objective is pretty much our very broad vision that energy demand in the project countries is matched by 100% renewable energy in the global south. And we are doing that pretty much by trying to get, and it sounds pretty easy, but it's not, to get people together to talk. Last 2 years, that has been quite a challenge, as you can probably imagine. So really trying to build broad consensus and a joint vision for what can a country look like when it's powered with 100% renewables, what would be the benefits and what kind of benefits we do want to unleash. So how can renewables contribute to development targets, for instance? And the idea is pretty much that we are doing that by modeling a technical 1% renewable energy scenario, which then is complemented through extensive stakeholder workshops across the different sectors. So we have a parliamentarian here today, we have government here today, but also businesses and civil society and academia together to see what are the barriers for 100% renewables and how can we unlock the benefits. And last but not least, international exchange, so that other organizations or countries are aware of how this process could be replicated in their local contexts. That's at least it in a nutshell. And currently we are between phase 1 and phase 2. So the idea is pretty much, as I said, to develop a joint vision and really get together to talk to one another, understand the different needs, but also motivations the different groups have. And right now, we are, as my colleague will probably tell you, we are between data information collection and actually modeling this 100% renewable energy scenario. And I'm very happy to say that I just came back from Uganda, where the participants didn't even want to leave for lunch to further discuss how this scenario could work and what kind of information needs to go in there. So that was really thrilling to see, especially after being at home arrest pretty much for 2 years. And the idea is then to really try to build the capacity. So what kind of financial assistance would be needed, or technology exchange, and what kind of also policy expertise would be needed to make such a 100% renewable energy scenario turn it into reality, basically. But that's still a bit into the future. And as I said, we are doing that in 3 countries, actually, and I realize you can't see everything. So one of that is Nepal, another one is Uganda and Vietnam. So 3 countries which are very different from their energy needs, but also the energy consumption pattern and what kind of energy aspects are very important. So for Nepal, for instance, which is a landlocked country and bordering China and India, for instance, obviously energy security is a big issue, but also the diversification of energy resources, being a country which is very dependent on hydro energy. In Uganda, we had a lot of discussions already about biomass and hydro use, but also e-cooking and how we can combine the vast agricultural landscape of Uganda with renewables. And last but not least, and unfortunately we couldn't have any representative from our Vietnam colleagues here today. Vietnam, not a landlocked country, the only one here. And here we are talking a lot about green hydrogen production actually for export, but also local use for industry. Vietnam itself has done an amazing job in really scaling up solar power in the last years, right? And also currently working on scaling up e-vehicles. So you see, there's a lot of different topics which are being addressed. And that's why we are really trying today to highlight at least 2 of those countries, what their experience is and how they see the project being unfold and really contributing to the national policy debates. And that's it from my side.
Well, thank you, Anna, and I forgot to introduce you, so maybe I'll do that. I do that now before I hand it over to Raju. Anna is, of course, managing the World Future Council's Energy and Just Development Program, and she joined the World Future Council in 2018 and has been supporting countries and civil society to develop these country-tailored long-term renewable energy strategies ever since she joined the World Future Council. And now I would like you to give a warm welcome to Mr. Raju Pandit Chhetri. Raju is the Executive Director of the Prakriti Resources Center in Nepal, and he has over 12 years experience in climate change policy processes. Raju closely follows the international climate change negotiations, which I guess we all do somehow, since we're all here, under the UNFCCC and the Green Climate Fund. And he is overseeing the project MAP for 100% renewables in Nepal. So, Raju, give us some insights on what the 100% REMAP project is about in Nepal, and what are your views and positions there.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Viviana, and also for the highlight, Anna. I think you give a good snapshot of the project. Yes, we have been one of the project partners in taking this ahead, multi-actors partnership for 100% renewable energy. In fact, it is very good that after almost 2 weeks of being in the negotiating rooms and talking about some very abstract things often, it's good to be sharing some of the practical examples from the country's perspective. For us, as Nepal signed the Paris Agreement, and also committing to the objectives of the Paris Agreement, I think one of the things that government has really done is to be in line with the Paris Agreement objective. And in a while, you'll also hear from the senior government official who is present here, who also led the nationally determined contribution making process in the country. So from the government that will come, but just to share my perspective from that line, given that Nepal's context as also a least developed country and a lot of almost over 60% of the energy is made from biomass, and almost about 100% of our fossil fuel is imported. So it comes from India. So given that context, but the country itself is a very rich in potential renewable energy. So we have huge amount of water resources, very good sunshine, there's also some potentiality for wind. But still having that problem, that energy security is a big issue. So as I said, it's biomass-based and also based on import. Now, one of the objectives for the last almost 1 decade that the government has really taken is to produce as much energy as possible so that green, resilient, and sustainable energy can be produced in the country, which not only, of course, helps in taking climate action, but at the same time, also a part of addressing the energy need and the energy poverty in the country. So it's seen from a dual perspective of while you are meeting the climate actions, you're also addressing poverty and energy needs at the same time. So this is very much in line with what we have committed to Sustainable Development Goals, what we have the 5-year development plan of the country, and also under the Paris Agreement, we have this nationally determined contribution. We have certain very good, or let's say very progressive targets. By 2045, country wants to be carbon neutral, in fact. So for that reason, energy will be one of the very important aspects. So if you look into the current aspect that even in the last, a couple of weeks back, Nepal passed its annual budget where it says that it wants to give out subsidized cooking stoves to wherever the electricity is available. This is one of the signs it has not done in the past. So this is part of implementing the NDC, in fact. Similarly, in the transportation sector, it's taking ways where you can promote e-vehicles, mass transportation based on e-vehicles, but at the same time also looking at the energy production. It's increasing its energy production primarily through hydropowers, but also mixed with the solar. So in the past decades, we have been importing 600 megawatts of electricity from India because we are joining to India. But the good thing is now that trend is reversing. Now we are exporting electricity to India at the same time. So there was recently news that we'll be now increasing this over the next 5 years, which means that the whole trend will reverse. It means that Nepal is in a path where instead of relying on others, we can be a part of that. And for that initiative to work in hand with the government, this project, MAP for 100% renewable energy, has really been a very good milestone. So what we have basically done under this is first, our objective was to convene all the stakeholders working in the renewable energy sector and climate change. So one thing, we want to marry these two subjects together so that they were not working alone. So when the climate community is saying that we want to have this Paris Agreement implemented, we have an ambitious nationally determined contribution. So how does that also is seen by the technical organizations that are particularly promoting renewable energy? Because often it is seen in the past, renewable energy were only considered as if you had solar home system or biogas or some sort of improved cooking stoves. But the whole notion is changing. It means that now full cooking can be done on e-cooking, right? So that is one thing that the country is moving. So what we do under this, we have almost had 46 organizations from private sector, from NGOs, from even government agencies, academia and media all come together so they can have a good discussion about how they want to move this and talk to each other and really promote how to have this multi-stakeholders moving together. And one of the good things is, of course, at the national level, we have had a lot of conversation, and we thought that this is also the opportunity that we will be able to take this to the provincial and the local level. So we have just been supporting 2 of the provincial governments in making the renewable energy strategy and action plan. And the good thing is, even in their own provincial budget, the action plan has been reflected. I think this is a good sign that we would be, in a way, moving forward to implement the Paris Agreement. And one of, I think when we talk about this renewable energy in the context of Nepal, what we're not just thinking about is the production side, but also at the same time is the consumption side. So decentralizing, reaching out to the rural areas, and in an inclusive manner is a fundamental part. So what MAP allows us to do is, especially reaching out to all the stakeholders, what kind of problem they face. Even the community users, women's group are a part of this MAP platform, where they can have their say. But at the same time, the policymakers are there as well. So I think the good interaction that brings a lot of ideas and the problems to be solved, and looking forward to that. Apart from that, one of the aspects that we'll be dealing under this project would be we're hoping like in a few months' time we'll be able to have that report, is a technical scenario. For instance, if it is a scenario that Nepal wants to go 100% renewable energy by 2050, then what pathways does it have to take? Of course, in a few years' time, we are not going to replace entire our fossil fuel system with the current system. It is going to take time. The investment is needed, the technology is needed, and there are a lot of other infrastructure that needs to be put in place. But when you vision something that you want to be, let's say, carbon neutral by 2045, but you also want to go 100% renewable energy in that, supporting with that line, then what scenario does it look in terms of investment, in terms of usage, in terms of productions, in terms of the given current social and economic fabrics in the country? So will that be possible or not? And the Sydney Technical University is helping us to build that scenario so that we can look into this and see where would we be heading. So how that this process can be fed into the parliamentarians, to the policy processes, but at the same time not talk just on the higher level, but in fact get to the local levels, discuss with local communities, user communities. There are different groups like who have been working on biogas, solar issues, small hydropowers. Of course, there are also medium-sized hydropowers, and whatever sources of energy are available in the country, and whichever actors are working, because some work on distribution, some work on production, some are working on uses. So all these actors have to come together if we want to meet this broader vision. That is where we have been working now, and almost it's been 1.5 years now. Unfortunately, for almost 2 years, but we are very much impacted by COVID because we couldn't do a lot of our work. But it's good that now this is really moved forward, and we will be able to go into that line to support the implementation of the Paris Agreement that the country has, in fact, committed to. With that, I will stop here, but if there's any questions that I'm happy to share later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raju. I think it's very impressive how a project like this can foster participatory and inclusive elements locally and regionally, and at the same time trigger more political developments at the national level, and also foster obviously energy independence and a pathway to 100% renewables. So now we will hear the view of our colleague Yona, Yona Turinayo, working for WWF Uganda in our project. And I promise you he's going to be big, so there you have it. Yona has been a coordinator for energy, climate, and the extractives program with WWF Uganda, and he has worked for over 15 years in the field of renewable energy and environmental conservation. So, okay, thank you. So, play, please.
I'm here to talk about how the project, which is multi-actor partnership, 100% renewable energy for all, has helped to unleash renewables in Uganda, and also to tell you more about how the project works. We implement the project through 3 objectives. One is establish a participatory multi-actor partnership platform to be used by relevant stakeholders to discuss 100% renewable energy strategies and implementation. The second one is to develop policy roadmaps, including technical scenarios on 100% renewable energy as a driver for development with and known by key stakeholders. Then the third objective is to facilitate the international exchange for the replication and also transfer of 100% renewable energy strategies. We would love to see a well-functioning multi-actor partnership platform. And I may say that on this platform already it is established, and there are about 60 members who are registered for this platform. Also, we look forward to see the country tailored 100% renewable energy scenarios. And the scenario looks at universal access to modern energy services in Uganda to end energy poverty by 2030. Also, the scenario looks at the development of SDGs by 2030. And also, we look at boosting socio-economic development to achieve middle income status and also deliver on Uganda's Vision 2040. The scenario also helps us to fully decarbonize Uganda's national economy by 2050, as well as achieving the right balance between energy production, economy, environment, and human well-being, which is sustainable energy production and consumption. Then the fourth output is 100% renewable energy policy roadmap, which we expect to see at the end of the project. Of course, this policy roadmap, which will be used by the multi-actor partnership platform. Communication materials are key to this project because the relevant stakeholders need to know about the renewable energy transition. That's why we look forward to seeing also communication materials well developed for relevant stakeholders under this project. The role of renewable energy for energy security and the economic development in Uganda. The country has a middle-sized income economy, with the agriculture sector accounting for the largest source of export earnings and employment, contributing about 24% to Uganda's GDP. The services sector, especially tourism, is the largest contributor to Uganda's GDP with approximately 53%. We look at energy playing a bigger role under this sector, and that's why we look at having this transition and also the project focusing at 100% renewable energy for all to boost such an economy. Uganda's population is underserved within the energy sector. 26 million people not having access to electricity as of 2019. The electric connection policy, which was introduced in 2018, aims to increase Uganda's electricity access to 60% by 2027. Still, urban electricity access is about 71%, and rural electrification access is only 32%. We have about 6,500 megawatts of renewable electricity potential. And out of this, it's only 1,200 megawatts, which is already utilized, meaning the biggest percentage, which is about 80%, is unutilized. There are a number of business, of course, opportunities in the renewable energy sector, such as large and small hydropower. We have geothermal, we have biomass, we have solar and wind energy, as well as waste into energy conversion. And this puts Uganda at a high potential of exploring more opportunities within the renewable energy sector. Thank you so much, and I wish you success in the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, Yona, even you cannot hear us. Now, before we start with our panel and our distinguished panelists, I would like to invite a very small round of clarification questions, if there are any, to Anna on the project or to Raju here in the room. Well, I guess you've made everything very clear. Yeah. Yeah, and then so I would like you all to welcome our panel and our panelists. Please come up here. First of all, I would like to welcome, ladies first, Dr. Radha Wagle from the Ministry of Forest and Energy in Nepal. Dr. Wagle is the Joint Secretary and Head of the Climate Change Management Division at the Ministry. She's also the country focal point for the UNFCCC. And Nepal's NDC and the National Adaptation Plan were both prepared under her leadership, so she really knows what's going on in Nepal. So welcome, Mrs. Wagle.
I have some energy transition in my laptop.
Very good. I'm sure it's all renewably powered here. So second, I would like to welcome the Honorable Lawrence Songa Biyika. Please come up to the panel. Lawrence is a member of the Ugandan Parliament. He serves as the chairperson of the Committee on Climate Change, and being an advocate on renewable energy and climate change mitigation, he played a crucial role in stipulating Uganda's Climate Change Act. And he's a member of several international parliamentary networks, like the Global Renewables Congress, that also Anna is working with. So welcome, Lawrence. And last but not least, I would like to welcome Mr. Emmanuel Tachi Obeng to the panel. Please come up here. Mr. Tachi Obeng is the Principal Program Officer of the Ghana Environmental Protection Agency and also a national focal point on climate change education, training and public awareness for the UNFCCC. He's currently the National UN Learn Coordinator of Ghana and a technical advisor of the Adaptation Fund project. So you really have your plate full, I see, it seems. And he's also representing the Ghana presidency of the Vulnerable 20. So welcome to all of you, and we're really interested to hear, now that we've heard from our project, we really now want to hear from your policymaker point of view. What visions are you following, and what do you need to make them a reality? So I would probably start with and also we have Anna still here representing the project. And Raju, maybe if you want to come up, then if there's any further questions in the process, then we have everybody here for all your questions. So I'm going to start with the first very simple question, but still probably complicated in the implementation. Are renewables a political priority for you, and why? We'll start with Mrs. Wagle.
Thank you, Viviana.
And
Anna and respected fellow panelists and all the participants. So first of all, I would like to welcome in my small glimpse what we are doing in energy transition in Nepal regarding the policy matter and its implementation. And good evening all. I would like to shed light on Nepal's energy-related some of the policies. That is, the first one is NDC and the 15 Periodic Plan and Energy White Paper. These are the main policies now we are in hand, and we are implementing it now. And the NDC is the ones which has the ambitious targets, and it has focused 4 sectors, and energy is the one which has most ambitious targets. And in the energy sector, we have ambition for energy generation. Raju ji already mentioned some of the areas. And in energy, the first one is energy generation. That is huge. I think by the end of 2030, we have planned to produce 15,000 megawatt energy, and which consists of 5 to 10% from solar, wind, and bioenergy, and micro and mini hydro. But the rest of the others, that is targeted from hydropowers. And the other target is energy utilization, not only producing the energy, and then we have plan to replace the fossil fuel vehicle by the electric vehicles, and also replacing the household energy by the electric energy. And now currently we are using fossil fuels, firewood, and we would like to replace that by bioenergy and in other energy efficient technologies as well. And by 2030, our NDC targets that 50% of total energy demand is supplied by clean energy sources. And in transport sector, by 2030, we will increase the sale of electric vehicle, and which cover 90% of all private passenger vehicle sales, including two-wheelers, and 60% of all four-wheeler public passengers, passenger vehicles. That is by 2030. And similarly, we have some electric railway transportation target, which is not in Nepal. That is not so big, but that is we have targeted 200 kilometer electric transport for rail network will build by 2030. And in terms of residential energy like cooking and target related to biogas, we would like to ensure 25% of households use electric stoves as a primary mode of cooking by 2030. And similarly, we will establish 500,000 improved cooking stoves by 2025. And similarly, we will establish 200,000 biogas plants, that is for household level, by 2025. And similarly, we have managed to build 500 large-scale biogas plant, which is built by the municipal level, that is through municipal waste treatment. And I would like to highlight some of the targets which is mentioned in our energy white paper, which was endorsed back in 2018. And the objective of this white paper is holistic development of energy, water resource, and irrigation sector by outlining the present situation, problem, and challenges of the field, and also formulating the future roadmap by conducting object-oriented analysis by establishing good governance. This paper is also related to energy governance, not only the energy production, and in all sectors, and supporting the strong resolution for fast development. And similarly, it also plans to replace energy consumed from traditional sources with electric energy and reduce trade loss. We have huge trade deficit related to fossil fuel right now, and it has targeted to reduce that deficit. And it also plans to develop a market for electrical energy. And Raju already mentioned that we are exporting, now we are exporting to India, and then we have huge target because that 15,000 megawatt will surplus for us, and we would like to sell it to our neighbor country. And we also provide sustainable, reliable, quality, and clean energy to all by increasing access to electricity. And we also increase per capita electricity consumption up to 700 kilowatt by 2023 and 1,500 kilowatt units by 2028. And the use of renewable energy for special lighting program for education and health, that is also connected to education and health as well, because many women and children, they are suffering from this household energy utilization, such as burning of fossil fuels. There is a problem of respiratory diseases. And I think that is also connected to our health related policies. And integration of renewable energy projects in national transmission system based on net metering and the net payment. And the government will also establish fund for 753 local level government to connect solar electricity of 100 to 500 kilowatt and pay for 50% of investment under the program of every settlement and every an energy settlement. That is like a slogan, every settlement and energy settlement, and that will connect all the 753 local level governments. And a net metering system will be installed under the program of every house in an energy house. That is also connected not only to the settlement but also to the household. And some initiation to achieve the target set in NDC and white paper. We already started some initiatives in the field to make it happen. The government has forwarded its different plan and activities to promote energy. And recently we have just completed our draft of NDC implementation plan. That is under process of approval, and it has so many activities which we need to do for achieving this second NDC targets. And in an annual budget of coming fiscal year, the government has targeted the distribution of induction stove to every household to promote the electric cooking. And the government has also reduced local governments. And also it is planned that 40 electric public buses will be run soon in Kathmandu Valley. And similarly, Bagmati provincial government has initiated to purchase the electric public vehicles. And these are some of the initiatives we have been taken so far. And I would like to stop here, and if you have any queries, and I will be here. Thank you.
Thank you. That is a very impressive and comprehensive renewable agenda. So obviously, renewables are a priority for you, it seems. So Lawrence, what does it look like in Uganda?
Thank you very much. Once again, my name is Speaker Lawrence Songa, Member of Parliament and Chair of the Climate Change Committee in Parliament. First of all, I want to thank you for this invitation, and also I want to thank you for this project you are doing in Uganda and Nepal and Vietnam. I think this is one pathway that will relieve us of the damages we are causing to climate change. The role of energy in politics, I think, is very important. And from your remark, you talked about climate change, COVID-19, the conflict, the tension, and also the prices. These are real challenges that have affected, actually, worsened the situation. In Uganda, our focus is to balance the economy, the planet, and the people. And as far as renewable energy is concerned, we intend to move it to at least 61%, the coverage of renewable energy to 61% by 2030. In terms of megawatts, we are talking about making it to 3,200 megawatts of electricity by 2030. Right now, Uganda is having about 1,500. If we complete all the remaining dams which are in the pipeline, we shall be having about 2,000 megawatts. So there is still opportunity, because Uganda is rich in renewable resources, to invest so that we can expand the renewable energy sector in Uganda. Rural electrification in Uganda is still about 32%, which is still very low, and we need to double that. And because of this low rural electrification, there is high rate of tree cutting, high rate of deforestation for charcoal and firewood and poles or building materials in rural area. So that had been a big challenge. Unfortunately, the deforestation is occurring in some of the watersheds feeding the dams. The watersheds are also source of income under tourism. So you can see the nexus between all these things. So we need to address renewable in the rural area so that we can stop some of the challenges we are facing. In Parliament, what we have done, We have removed the value-added tax on solar panels, but we have not yet removed value-added tax on the materials for making the batteries. So it is still making solar very expensive for people, but we are trying to see how best we can be helped, how best we can work together to remove that. We have also removed the value-added tax on LPG, the liquefied petroleum gas, so that maybe people in urban areas can start using gas for cooking and so on than using firewood and charcoal. And that would reduce pressure in rural area on the watersheds that are feeding our dams. We are trying to do this. And although Uganda is still on the energy mix, we are encouraging energy mix, but we have some initiatives like the electric bus system. We are piloting that electric bus system, though it is not yet well developed. So we are trying to move towards renewable. If you look at our NDC, 90% is talking about adaptation and 90% is talking about renewable energy. If you look at our updated NDC. So we need the infrastructure put in place, and we need maybe the legal framework, the policy, the legal framework addressed, so that renewable energy can reach the people. After all, in the updated NDC, we are considering most of the sectors, actually. So we need resources. Of course, there are challenges of finance to develop the infrastructure, but also to see how we can reach the rural area. The energy demand is a lot. It is sometimes, maybe some of you heard about Uganda having excess power, excess electricity. That's not true, because we have excess because the rural area, all the people are not yet connected to electricity. Once you connect them, there will be no excess electricity. Once you put heavy industries there, there will be no electricity. So we still need electricity, and we want to be powered by renewable. And then we are also in the border where the infrastructure in the neighborhood is not well developed. We have a lot of demand from DRC. They are also asking for electricity from Uganda. That is a high potential. So we need to develop these renewable energy sources so that we can reach the population in Uganda, but also we can export power so that we can get some income. And that income can help us instead of borrowing high interest loan from the east or west. It is really becoming a burden to our economy. So we rather generate our money, and then if there is any development partner coming in, that should supplement what is in the budget. But for the budget to have these priorities captured, we need to involve the policymakers, the legislators, so that we can build their capacity, they can know about these issues, so that they can appreciate that this is a priority area which requires that in the budget we should put money. And so that is very important, so that the first money to promote renewable energy in Uganda should come from our budget, and then development partners should only supplement. So that is very important. So involvement of stakeholders, very, very important. And in Parliament, fortunately, before we created the Climate Change Committee, we have the Parliamentary Forum on Climate Change, which helps in engaging stakeholders from government, private sector, civil society, and academia. So we need to strengthen that collaboration so that the views of the population from the grassroots can reach the floor of Parliament through the forum and to the committee. It is the committee to present. So that is very important, and that will also help. Then another issue is there is no way we are going to report we have in the updated NDC, Uganda has promised to reduce greenhouse gas emission by 24.9% in the updated one. Before it was 22%. Now, when we are reporting on this contribution or reduction of emissions, we are not going to leave the work of civil society, academia, private sector. We have to report as a contribution as in totality. So we need to know the contribution of WWF. We need to know all the civil society, government, academia, and then we can say, as a country, we have managed to reduce greenhouse gas emission by 24.9%. So we need to work together so that there is that strong coordination. And then we need to increase awareness about the use of renewable energy. But this awareness should go with some pilot demonstration projects so that people can see that if we do biogas here, it can improve life. So that is very, very important, demonstration pilot projects. And then another thing which is also very important is on the energy mix. We still have a challenge. We are still, Uganda has just discovered the petroleum, and now there is that dilemma. Should we leave the fossil fuel underground, or we should bring it? I think so. We should bring it out. Now, this is the dilemma the country is facing. Our oil is about 6.5, estimated to be 6.5 billion barrels. It is very small. We can't compare it with the South China Sea with 17.7 billion barrels. I think those working in Vietnam know that. We can't compare it with Kuwait here with 14.4 billion barrels. So what is recoverable from the 6.5 billion barrel is only 1.4, because our oil has a lot of gas, and the technology to get it all is still tough for us. And with that, Uganda forecasts to make like about $89.6 billion. And with that money, instead of borrowing, they think, Uganda thinks that money can be used to develop infrastructure, health, education, and other sectors, instead of borrowing high interest loan from China or elsewhere. So now this is the dilemma we have, but all the same, we are encouraging energy mix. But to address that, we know that petroleum will generate some greenhouse gases. So we want to emphasize, even in the budget which was read today, we have tried to put money so that we can increase the carbon sink. So because the contribution of Uganda emission level is still 0.09%. Emission is 0.09%. So we think if we can increase carbon sink, we can still go towards carbon neutral technology, while at the same time we are piloting other initiatives like the electric bus and so on. So these are the situation in Uganda. The political will is there. The legal framework is there, though there are some gaps which we still need to close. But working together, we can close that gap. And then we need resources so that we can develop the infrastructure. And then in the rural area, we need to address the bottlenecks, which is making people not to use renewable. One of which is the cost of solar, like I said. There is also high mortality, like our colleague from Nepal has reported. There is high mortality, especially of mothers and children under 5, because of indoor air pollution. They are cooking using firewood and charcoal in poorly ventilated kitchens. And then at night, they have to light using kerosene lamps. So we are saying, organization of any interested parties, why don't you come in, especially we start with the mothers for lighting at night. Why don't we give them small solar lamps so that they stop using kerosene, which is causing indoor air pollution, especially for the mothers. Small things, but big impact. And then we promote the clean cooking, idea of clean cooking. I think that will help. While at the same time, other initiative of government, we are saying each family should have a wood lot. At least if you need firewood, plant the trees you want to use. And then use energy-saving stoves. The stoves are still expensive. We have not managed to remove any tax on it. We need someone to subsidize that so that the people can access the stoves. So these are the challenges. Why we want to address mortality is the moment a kid is sick in a family, it is the mother who is supposed to take care of this kid, especially in the hospital. Moreover, 80% of our smallholder farmers are actually mothers. So you can see nobody will be doing agriculture. The little money saved in the previous sale will go all for medical bills. So that economy cannot develop. So we need to address those bottlenecks by doing those small things, but for positive big changes. I think that is the situation in Uganda. We are willing to put all the legal framework to support it with budget, but before we put that budget, let the people who are allocating these resources appreciate that we need to go renewable. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. That was, also, obviously, health is a thing that is carrying through in everything we've heard today. So I would like to hand the floor now to Emmanuel Tachi Obeng. Emmanuel, speaking also from a perspective of the Climate Vulnerable Forum, is health also a problem for you? And what is the position of not only Ghana, but also the V20 on renewables as a priority? And then we take a second round also on the frameworks that we need to put more of it in place. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity for inviting Ghana. And I would like to indicate that Ghana is currently the presidency of the Climate Vulnerable Forum. So I'm here to talk about Ghana and then also talk about the countries that are really very vulnerable so far as climate change is concerned. When it comes to renewable energy and Ghana and among various vulnerable countries, policies and frameworks are available. When it comes to Ghana, we have the Energy for All, among others. But most of these vulnerable countries has remained in hydro over the years, which has had serious impacts on climate change. If you take Ghana, for instance, Ghana was having a hydro electricity power, which was actually giving power to the country itself, and then also to the transboundary country across West Africa. But as of today, I can tell you that the hydroelectricity power, due to climate change impacts, had reduced the flow of water into the Akosomo Dam, and production of hydroelectricity is about 30%, especially during the dry season. So you can imagine how climate change has affected hydroelectricity or energy production in Ghana and among these similar to most vulnerable countries. So what we are forging towards now is an energy mix which involves thermal. Based on our NDCs, we decided to come along with thermal energy, which has been sustaining Ghana for some time. But we're lucky that we're also able to get gas, or let me take it, we explored petroleum a couple of years ago, so we have gas in our country. So instead of losing the hydroelectricity, currently we have a lot of thermal energy which produce most of our energy for us. But we have gas as a country which we are using to retrofit the energy that we are using. I'm talking about the diesel and the petrol that we are using. We are using gas more to reduce emissions so far as climate change is concerned. And one good thing is that because Ghana was having a lot of hydro energy in the past, when it comes to the 80s, energy access is about 90%. Ghana, most of our rural areas and the cities and everywhere has electricity. And this really affected us. When our hydro went down, it affected us seriously. So for the past 4 years, we've been having electrical problems. We call it doomso, which is the blackout. You see? But currently, we've been able to solve that because we've procured a number of thermal energy, and then we are using our gas to take care of the diesel and petrol that we are using. So this has gone a long way to help us, and the access is still above 90% when it comes to the country in general. So climate change has really had impact so far as our energy mix is concerned. So if you look at our NDCs propose some of the policies like solar home systems, because we're planning to increase our renewable energy to about 10% by 2030. So solar home systems is one of the policies that we were using. That is your dream house. You try to put solar panels on top of it, and then you'll be able to produce your own electricity. And if even good, try to give back to our electricity company. So this is the policy that we have been using to improve our renewable energy mix. And then our thermal has been also helping, and like my honorable in Uganda said, we are also using clean cook stoves, and then also the electric lamps. These are some of the policies we are using, and this goes through most of the vulnerable countries so far as climate change is concerned. But currently, vulnerable countries are trying to develop what you call climate prosperity plan. If you look at in Paris, we decided to come out with NDCs. Our NDCs actually give us adaptation and mitigation. See, NDC tried to reduce our emissions and then help us to adapt. But as at now, vulnerable countries have decided to go beyond adaptation, move from vulnerability to resilience to prosperity. So we are preparing a framework which is beyond NDCs, which will actually take vulnerable countries from vulnerability to prosperity, which means taking advantage of climate change to prosper, instead of just adapting to climate change or just reducing climate emissions. So this is the strategy that vulnerable countries are adopting. So countries have started to develop their own climate prosperity plan. So most of the countries who are yet not part of the Climate Vulnerable Forum could join us. We have funds to actually develop your own CPP, which will help you to actually adapt all right, to actually reduce emissions all right, but you take advantage of climate change to prosper. So we have put more of development actions within our policies so far as climate framework is concerned. So this is what we are doing. And in this, that emphasis has been placed on renewable energy. We are using our prosperity plan to really accelerate our energy mix, especially in the area of renewable energy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very impressive, and I really like the climate prosperity plan. I would like to invite a short answer from Anna and from Raju on how do you think the 100 Remap program or project can foster that kind of climate prosperity in the countries that we're working on. Maybe Raju first and then Anna. And then we'll have a shorter second round before we open the floor to further discussions.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, very briefly on that, I think when you look at the solutions of meeting the energy needs in the country, we don't only look from just lighting or doing certain amount like cooking or things, but we look from a more holistic perspective. As Madam very rightly earlier mentioned, that it's related to the health issues, it's related with the community development issue, because for us, having access to energy in rural areas is also means building resilience to climate change impacts. So it goes much beyond than just looking from one very silo sector. So I think it's very right when you look from the perspective plan, the impacts of climate change in diverse sectors. For us, for now, why we need to really get into the, let's say, the multi-sectors or not just rely on one sector is basically, even in country like Nepal, we have seen that when you rely too much on hydro, what happens is when there's like, glacier lakes, flooding, or there's a flood in the rivers, a lot of hydropowers have been destroyed. So if you look at, so energy mix is a very important aspect. So we look into solars, we look into other forms of renewable energy. So that allows us that in context when there is a crisis like that, then you could be able to, be able to substantiate with other means as well. So of course, the poverty aspect, meeting the resilience of the communities, also meeting the demand for energy for your industrial purposes, household purposes, but at the same time, also being energy independent. That's a very key factors for the community, families, and the whole nation itself. So I think looking from that perspective is very key. Thank you.
Do you want to add?
So maybe from a more overarching perspective, what you already get here is like a glimpse of what we are trying to solve or trying to work on. So we have very diverse narratives and really objectives in each of the countries. So we are trying to really tailor a solution which fits to the country context, trying to get the maximum out of the renewables in each of the countries, and that might take a very different path in Nepal than it does in Uganda, for instance. And touching upon the climate prosperity plans, which I think are great, I'm very happy to say that the work we have done before in Bangladesh in a similar project actually fed into that as well, into the first one, the MUCHIP plan. So that was really great to see, and I really hope that we can foster that. And touching upon the gas, because I saw that there were some discussions also amongst the audience. This is a very difficult topic, obviously, especially given the setting we are currently in. The beauty with this project, for me personally, we are talking about renewables. So really for renewables, but and we don't necessarily take a stance on anything else. There are definitely spaces where you have to discuss gas and oil and whatever. But this project is really about scaling up renewables. What are the benefits and how can they support also economic growth? So that's it from my side.
Well, thank you, Anna. But I would like to, because that is a dilemma, and I would like to take it up a little bit in a question that I would have to the panel. You've all presented very impressive plans that your countries are already following, and I must say, like even in Germany, we're only just starting using electric buses, so it's it is very impressive, and there's maybe something to learn. But the question would be, if we face these dilemmas also, what international support, what frameworks could help speeding up the renewable transition and basically keeping everything else in the ground for you? That would be the first question, and the second would be, if you had one wish to our 100% renewables multi-actor partnership project, what would it be? And I would have to ask all of you to be brief. I'll give everybody 2 minutes, and I'll be very strict. And this time I will start with Emmanuel.
Thank you very much again. Like I've already indicated, most vulnerable countries are looking for their climate prosperity plan. And if you are looking for support, one area that will be very, very important is technology transfer. Because technology transfer is what we need to really advance and prosper. So that is our agenda that we are looking for. And secondly, if we need technology transfer, then it should go with partnership. We need a number of institutions to come and partner with us so that we'll be able to incorporate this into our policy and then implement it at the same time. And then it doesn't also end with partnership. We need incentives, you see, because most of these vulnerable countries are very poor. And even if you look at our report, which we released last couple of weeks ago, it has been indicated that vulnerable countries have already lost 20% of their wealth. It means that without climate change, we would have been prosper by 20%. So if that's the case, then our partners, the technology that are coming, should come with incentives. Innovative incentive is what vulnerable countries are looking for. And upon this, we also need capacity building. So these are the 4 major areas that I would like to mention so far as support is concerned. Thank you very much.
And what can the project do or what is your wish to our project, if you had one?
What would be our vision?
Wish.
Our wish?
Yeah.
To our project, yes. Like I'm saying, this project which I've followed, trying to bring, put in place framework and then draw a pathway for renewable energy. And it's a wish of most vulnerable countries. So we'll be very, very happy if we'll also have similar projects in our countries. Thank you very much. So that is our wish.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind. So next up, Radha, please.
I would like to go straight to the first question, the international support. Of course, while we see towards our NDC, there are two types of targets, conditional and unconditional, and most of our targets are conditional targets. And out of 15,000 megawatt and 5,000 megawatt only we can afford from our internal resources, and rest of the electricity we need to produce through the support from the outside. That may be the financial capacity development on other sources. But what we have is we have potentiality, we have resource, but we need investment. And the other thing is, while we shift from one energy means to another. For example, the people now they are using LP gases, and they have the different type of stove. And while they go to shift to the electricity, they need another type of stove that is costly. They cannot invest, they cannot afford that. That is the problem. And then maybe we need some sorts of subsidies for them. So we need to assure them, we need to motivate them, we need to convince them, you need to shift to this energy to do this. That's why you have benefit from that thing. We need to make them aware as well. And similarly, while we produce energy, then we need to have the distribution. And we have very difficult terrain, and it is very difficult to reach and we have very scattered settlement in the mountains, and it is very difficult to reach out them. And that are some of the problems. And in your second question, what you expect from your project or something like that. We have very good example of biogas production and utilization, micro hydro and mini hydro project. Maybe you can support to the local government, the project can support to the local government, because the local government are also resourceful. Maybe we can also motivate them to bring them to produce such type of energy. Maybe they can invest to their people to buy this electric appliances. Maybe you have some sorts of collaboration or some contribution in the such areas as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Lawrence, what do you need?
Thank you very much. Under the agreement, we have common but differentiated responsibilities. Definitely each country will do it in the local context, but to achieve the same ultimate goal of all countries. So as far as what should be done, we know that there are multilateral funds, but accessing them is so bureaucratic, sometimes take too long. So I would encourage that much as that process of long-term funding is ongoing, we should focus on bilateral. We should also build capacity in country. Of course, the issue of technology is very important. But above all, we should also encourage fair trade, because resources that are coming in these countries can boost the incomes of the people so that they can afford some of this renewable energy product. But again, like I said, we need to pilot some demonstration so that people can appreciate what renewable is doing in their lives and improving their lives, like addressing mortality using what I said, small solar for lighting, clean cooking, which they cannot afford if it can be subsidized. And then these renewable energy products, like the solar system, we need to skill people like women, like youth, who can help in repairing them. Because we may not get technical expert from elsewhere, so we need to build the skills of the people so that, and also for the solar panels, we don't want to continuously import like in Uganda. We need the solar plants there. We need to encourage investors to have the solar plants there so that it is cheaper for the population. Above all, we need to involve the stakeholders, government, civil society, academia, private sector, and and everybody. And then, of course, all these things will require support of the government in the budget, like I said. So involve the legislators, involve the policymakers, so that they can appreciate and put money in the budget, and then the donors, the other development partners, can supplement. And then, of course, for your project, my wish is to see that you scale it up, and then you go with practical actions that the communities can see that something is helping them to improve their lives, and in that way awareness will be increased, so that we can have a resilient, a low carbon, and smart communities. I think those are the things I can say in concluding remark. But one thing which may not necessarily be what you asked is, much as we are promoting solar, this had been a concern I raised even in Glasgow. Solar panels are taking a lot of land in some countries. If you have a solar farm, I don't know how many hectares. We have in Uganda solar farms which are taking like 50 acres of land. So with time, if we put solar everywhere, what will happen? So for me, I would encourage solar on rooftops. Solar on rooftops will, or if we are putting solar farms, let it be integrated with some other economic activity, not just leaving the land to solar in a country where the average landowner is only having 2 acres. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And now we will open the floor. 2 questions from you. Also, if you joined us online, please feel free to ask questions in the chat. I have my lovely colleague Mandy over there who will monitor that. It's Mandy's birthday today, so an extra special thank you. So who has the first question for our panel here? It's your one and only chance to get all of them together. Yes, please. The guy in the back. Seeing as we have one, why don't we just give it to you?
Lovely, thank you. Yeah, thank you at first for the very, very interesting presentations, very impressive projects. I'm an electrical engineering student from RWTH Aachen University in Germany, and also part of the Younger Youth constituency. I've got a question regarding grid stability on the way towards 100% renewable energy systems. So what are your plans regarding the problem of fluctuating renewable energy production? So wind and sun are fluctuating energy resources. Have you integrated any solutions in your projects you presented regarding that topic? Thank you.
I think we're just going to collect a few questions. I had one from the gentleman in the burgundy jacket in the front here.
Thank you very much for the wonderful presentations and submissions. I want to say that for the start, the project sounds very, very interesting. I'm a Ugandan. Greetings, Honorable Minister. I work with an NGO, actually an NGO network. No, Honorable MP, sorry. And of course, we are spread all over the country, and among the things we do is promote renewable energy. One question I have is, how do we strengthen mechanisms for collaboration among actors? And this also ties into what our Honorable MP said. If, for instance, we are to measure the contributions of civil society towards the NDCs, for instance, if we are to tap into that, how are we going to do that? How much do we know of who is doing what? Number one. And also the issue of piloting versus scaling up. I think over time there are so many good practices, but oftentimes you find that projects take a lot of time in piloting, coming up with new approaches, and often you hardly hear so much about mechanisms for really significantly scaling up. So I think, how do we move towards scaling up? And yeah, I think this for me also ties into the long-term approaches. So I was wondering, for example, how many years is the project? If we are moving towards, say, Vision 2030, for instance, in many times, in many of the energy projects, you find 3 years, 4 years, 2 years, sometimes 1 year. How are we aggregating these? How is it possible that we can have longer-term interventions, longer-term plans that are, rather than, because 3 years a project, 1 year is basically inception. Another year is implementation, and, the third year you're thinking about reporting, and then coming up with another project, which often doesn't, build onto the previous one. So I think, how do we move towards longer-term interventions, longer-term projects that can be well aligned to the SDGs, for instance? Thank you very much.
Thank you. And there were 2 more questions here. If you make them short, please, then we will take both of them and then give it back to the panel.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Gunnar Olesen from International Network for Sustainable Energy. It's a network of non-governmental organizations where we have been collecting a lot of local solutions that we also are disseminating and informing about. And my question is, following on this one, how much in progress do you think you are to fulfill the 2030 target of energy access, both for cooking and for electricity? And how is that linked with your 100% renewable energy? And then specific, there was one issue you told about the problem of hydropower. I mean, I understand in some countries hydropower is not reliable because there's a drought years, but in Nepal, if the problem is that there's an overflow, have you considered to make the hydropower resilient in the way where it could just overflow without destroying the system? Because obviously it's not a way forward. You have to somehow deal with this problem of this destruction.
Do we have any online questions at the moment? Okay, so people online, this is your last chance to type it in. And
May I?
Yeah.
I'm also from the International Network for Sustainable Energy, and I just would like to tell that we are also working 100% renewables in Uganda together with UCSD, the Uganda Coalition for Sustainable Development, and we are very much hoping to have a synergy with the plans in Uganda. And we're also making some databases of local solutions. And we think, or we understand that there is a forgotten things about the efficient cook stoves, the 2 pots and chimney. And I would like to raise a question that how much are you integrating this? Because we think that it's simply getting forgotten. The LPG is coming into picture, and which is expensive, heavy to carry up in the mountains in Nepal. And then somehow people are turning back to the 3 stones and without chimney. And this is my question, that how much focus you have on this. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, we have 4 questions and 8 minutes until the end of the event. So I will just hand it back to the panel without any further facilitating. And I would think we just go from Radha all the way through to Emmanuel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think some of the questions are targeted to me and some of them are not. And while we talk about the first question, the collaboration, how it is possible or what is the effective collaboration mechanism. And I would like to give example from our country. And we have in top level, we have one committee, one council in the chairmanship of Prime Minister, and there are ministers in that council to coordinate all those ministries. And similarly, we have one executive level interministerial climate change coordination committee that coordinates all the climate action, not only for the energy. And that is under the chair of Secretary of Ministry of Forest and Environment. All the joint secretaries from different ministry, they are the members, and there are some representation from civil societies as well. And we have a similar type of committee in the province level and local level as well. And for the energy, and there is another board for Alternative Energy Promotion Center. We have one Alternative Energy Promotion Center, and there is a board in the Ministry of Energy's minister, and some other members from different stakeholders who are the stakeholder of energy generation, energy production. And the other question regarding the piloting versus scaling up project versus program approach, I think I think government should lead the program. They need to have that type of program, and the project needs to support the government program under the government leadership. I just like to said, if we like to make the sustainable project, we need to have the leadership of the government, and the project should come up under the umbrella of the government. And regarding the hydroelectricity in Nepal, we have overflow in the rainy season. We have that problem. We sometimes have the problem of globes. And recently, we have carried out the vulnerability risk analysis for different sector. And this year also, we have carried out vulnerability risk analysis for energy generation, hydroelectricity as well. And we need to take care of those vulnerability while we are making some energy-related projects. Thank you very much.
Lawrence?
Yeah, thank you. I think I will basically focus on one question of collaboration. We are actually encouraging, because there are so many organizations that are implementing climate change related projects in Uganda. And now on the parliament side, it is the committee. If you are doing anything in Uganda to address climate change, you have to interact with our committee so that we know what you're doing. Every year we present 2 reports to parliament. And that report is a kind of advisory to government. So it is good to interact so that we can capture and know what you are doing, and that is very good. And in the Ministry of Water and Environment, we have the Climate Change Department that we work closely with to see that the issue of climate change is well coordinated. There are many convention, treaties, and protocols that are hosted in different ministries, like the UNCCD, for example, is hosted in the Ministry of Agriculture on desertification. And there are other Basel Convention, Vienna, and so on. So it is through our committee that we can be able to work with Climate Change Department to see that there is coordination, and when we are tracking progress by government, and we are the ones holding government accountable, checking the responsiveness of the government of Uganda to addressing climate change. So civil society, government, academia, and private sector, we need to work together on that. On resilient electricity, actually, in Uganda, we have a very old dam which was built in 1954, the one in a town called Jinja, and now it has developed some cracks, and we got a lot of rain from another river which is called Kagera, and the level of Lake Victoria water went up. Actually, now we are releasing a lot of water. If you see along the Nile, there is a lot of floods in Uganda, in Juba, South Sudan, up to Cairo, because we could not allow that amount of water to pass through that old dam. So we, of course, with climate change now, we need resilient infrastructure. Thank you very much.
Emmanuel?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I would like to tackle the question on scaling up in such a way that we'll be able to achieve our 2030 long-term goals. What we need to do actually is within our country, we have to embrace local solutions. There are a number of institutions who are doing a little bit around our countries. I think this is where we should start from. We need to really document some of the lessons learned and be able to build more capacity and become resilient, and also skill that whatever we are doing, skill it up within country and then also outside country. So what I'm saying is we need to document whatever we are doing, the lessons that we are doing, we need to capture them, build on it, and then carry it within and outside most vulnerable countries. This is what I would like to provide. Thank you.
Thank you. Anna, Raju, do you want to take up some of this? I didn't hear anything on grid stability, maybe?
I can quickly touch upon not what is currently going on, but at least what the project is usually doing. So the models are very much looking to achieve 100% renewable energy supply 24/7. So obviously that is an issue to make. Well, grid stability is a big issue as well as flexibility. So what the modelers are usually doing, and that's actually what they are working on right now, is really trying to diversify the energy mix, but also really look into more technical aspects. What technologies do we need, and what kind of investments into infrastructure do we need to reach this grid stability we need? That being said, I can only encourage you to have a look at the website, where we will definitely post the scenarios, and we hope to have them ready by October, November this year. Also with the modelers present then, who definitely can reply to that question even better than I can.
Thank you. Raju, do you want to add something?
Very briefly, well, on the stability of the electricity flow from the, well, I mean, for Nepal has not been so much of an issue because we're mostly reliant on hydropower. So now the generation with the solar is just coming up. But having said that, of course, for those solar home system, it is more battery storage. So when you have it, as long as the battery lasts, that works. But if it not, since not connected to the grid, that's very isolated. So if you don't have it, then you don't have the electricity. But basically, that has been the case. But over time, what has been the case with the hydropower is one thing that I talked earlier about is going into energy mix, because you cannot, though we have huge potentiality on the hydropower, we cannot just rely on that because of the given impact in the mountains. Of course, in the past projects, whatever hydro projects were there, they may not have considered the climate context. But now with the new situation, the vulnerability being done, and even the hydropower companies are very mindful that now they will have to take that into consideration. In fact, it's not just about the overflow and flooding. We also have the issues of drying up of that in the summer season. So both the context has to be taken, and that vulnerable assessment that is driving into that investment. And now the interesting part is even when the banks give the loans, without being considered, now getting loan is quite difficult for hydropower projects. Thank you, Brent.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody, for we're almost in time for joining our discussion today. I thought we heard very interesting and a wide range of challenges and chances that we see on our ways to 100% renewables. What strikes me that comes out that everybody or every country with all needs or has is that there's obviously very ambitious plans everywhere, and they could be enhanced with a lot more money, with finance and investments. But not only that, but also with partnerships, and also much more on the ground piloting and making sure things are really working for people in the country, so that they can actually see the benefits of an energy transition. And what I also take away is that there is demand for projects like ours. So I think we should keep going. So thank you very much, everybody. I hope you check out the website, as Anna said, and stay true to the energy transition. Thank you very much, and good evening.
Thank you so much.